Guys, so welcome back and let's continue on our last code over here because I decided to break down the video because I think it's too long, and I think it's good things to start refactoring over here because we still have some not a tidy JSON over here, and of course in this long JSON, and we can see that we still need to refactor our production code over here, and of course in this production type, because this production type should be on the production, not in the test scope, right? So in this video we are going to learn how we can do some kind of refactoring stuff backed up with the test, because we are pretty much good on the test side, and basically refactoring is changing the implementation without changing the behavior. So the goal in this video is trying to be able to come with cleaner solution by doing refactoring backed up with a test. So the test is going to guaranteeing us that the behavior is going to be still the same. So let's go and deep dive into some kind of part that we can refactor, and then I believe let's start with this one. And of course, before we change anything, let's hit Command U and see that we are still in the grid state. And it is always a good idea to start in a green state, right? So make sure that we are in a green state before we change anything. So what we can do is we can refactor this into some kind of, some kind of function. So let's remove that and change that into a function over here. And that function is gonna be the same, or invalid JSON format data. It's returning a data, and we can just return that invalid JSON format data, right? And we just do our first part of refactoring, and let's hit Command U, and basically it needs to call the self here. So let's call self. Yeah, I think that's pretty much good, and let's put that on bottom. I believe we can put over here, and we can basically run this again, and let's see what happened. Alright, the first refactoring part is done, so we can say that refactor invalid JSON format data into a factory method function or method is good enough. So let's commit, and let's go ahead and refactor another things over here. I believe we can do the same thing, or maybe we can just cut here, and let's transform that into a function. And I forgot the function name. Let's put the name over there, valid JSON format data, which returning a function returning a data, and let's paste and return on the very bottom valid JSON format data. And let's move that function helper into bottom over here. Let's hit Command U. Oh, we are failed to build. Why is that? Because we forgot to call self here. So let's hit Command U again. And yeah, we are pretty much good here. So I think it's a good idea to commit. So let's commit. Oh, I accidentally paste there. So refactor complete JSON response data into a factory method. So let's hit commit. Of course, we can do the same thing on this one. I don't think it is necessary at the moment, but I think it's always a good idea to do that. Like this one, it is like some kind of repetition, right? We can create the function as well, like empty JSON data, which is returning a data. And what we can do is we can call the function, and we can return that. And of course, we need to use or call the empty JSON data on another task scope. And I believe the other one is, oh, we only have two, I believe. All right. So let's hit Command U again. See the changes. All right, we are still green. And let's move this into bottom. All right, let's run again, Command U. All right, that's pretty much good. And let's hit commit over here, refactor empty JSON into factory method. All right, what else we can do? I think we can refactor raw JSON here into a function. Let's try. What we can do is to cut that and move that into some kind of private function, not found character JSON data, and that is returning data. And let's return the not found data, and let's call the function and call the self as well. Right, so let's cut that and let's move that around this area. Let's hit Command U again and see what happened. It is still green, and I think that's pretty much good to go. Let's commit again, refactor not found JSON, not found character JSON data into a factory method. All right, let's commit. I think this refactoring is pretty much good, but actually, if we are using Moya, basically, we can some kind of override the computer property, the sample data, and this provides stop data for use in testing. Default is data. So basically, if we want to test the data in Moya, what we can do is we can switch the self again like usual, and if it is fetch character, then we can just return a sample data that we want to use, maybe a wrong format data or some kind of other data. That's how usually we can test Moya. But I'd like to separate things, like for example this sample data, because this sample data is gonna be part of the production code, and if we are messing around with this one, it means that we are mixing our JSON code in here, which is actually for the testing purpose only. And I don't think it's a good idea to include the testing code to the production code, and that's only my opinion. The framework is actually providing us to do so, but I like to separate things on that. So I think it's a good idea to move to another refactoring part, which is this one, because if we are looking at this code, it is actually some kind of not really good code. And what is that? Because we basically trying to adapt this completion closure in here, and we have the switch case into the async await world, which is actually having a more indentation over here. So what we can do is just try to extract things to some kind of simpler function like this load, and this load is gonna be having I don't know, some kind of completion handler, and that completion is a closure, and that closure will be returning the result, either a character or some kind of error, and in this specific error is the remote character service error here. And I believe we can try to move this away to this one, right? And we need to fix many things over here. So first, we cannot find the continuation. Oh, I typed it wrongly. So what we can do is we basically can completion success, oh, failure, I mean, and this failure is basically this one. So let me just copy around, and let's do some refactoring over here. All right, this is done, and what we can do is we can just copy using completion with the failure, I believe, and this one is the server error. You can do is just return the server error. And how about this one? We can complete with the success case with the character that is decoded, and in this one we can complete with the some kind of value on invalid JSON error. And in here, I believe what we can do is we can complete with failure with the timeout error. and I believe that's how we can convert that into some kind of completion handler stuff. And basically we can get rid of this error, and we still need to mark the completion handler as escaping, as the compiler said. And what we can do is we can call the load completion with a given ID, and we need to pass result here, switch case, and call the continuation. But this continuation type, you can see that it is actually the check continuation of character and error. If it is matched, I think we can just pass that completion immediately. For example, continuation. Let's try. I have a little bit typo there. We cannot write. Yeah, maybe we can open that. So ID, and we got the result. Oh, we got the result. Okay. And what we can do is call the continuation dot with result of character and error. So what we can do is just pass the continuation over there, and I believe that's how we can solve things. Let's see the error type. The check continuation is different, so let's see. Oh, so basically I passed the wrong things here. The continuation resume with the result, right? Oops, result. So let's hit Command U and see what happened. Great, the task is still green, and I believe that's how we can refactor things backed up with the task, right? For this part over here. So let's go ahead and commit refactor function bridging adaptation into a separate function. All right, let's commit, and of course what we can do is do another refactoring over here. So for example, I think this code is kind of a little bit mess, right? So what we can do is we can try to map refactor into some kind of map on this one. So the idea is to complete with some kind of mapping, and let me tell you. So we want to call the completion, and we know that in here we could complete either with failure and succeed, right? So we can do is we can complete with mapping from the response here, right? And of course I believe we need to create the map function, map from the response, and in this case this response is the Moya response. So what we can do is we can specify the response with the Moya response over here, and it will be complete by returning a result of both type, the character and some kind of error. And in this example we can just return failure not found character error, and this one return failure the server error, and in this one we can just return the success with the given character, and in this one we can just return some kind of failure, which is the invalidation error. And I believe that's how we can solve things over here. So let's hit, and of course we need to call self, and we know that if we are referencing the self inside of closure, and if that closure is on the another class type or reference type, what we can do is we can wikify the self. Otherwise we want to basically avoid the memory leak, right? So we can use the guard let self is equal to self, otherwise just return. And let's hit Command U again, and hopefully we are still in the green state. And I believe in the newer version of Swift, like Swift I believe 5.8, I think we can use this kind of stuff and get rid of this self. And that's how we can simplify many things. Yep, I think that's how we can do that. So I think it is pretty much good, and I like this implementation, and yeah, I think it's a good idea to commit things around here. So I believe what we can do is we can commit refactor mapping for more simplicity. All right, let's commit. And I think that's almost the end of refactoring things. And one thing what we can do some kind of refactoring is to move this type into the production. Right, so the character target type is gonna be on its own group. For example, the networking, we can move that into a character target type. Oops, I need to copy the character target type, and why don't we just move everything to a single file and then start to gradually move to separate files. So let's hit Command U, and of course we need to import Moya over here, and let's hit Command U again. And right now in the test code it does not recognize this remote character service, because in this example we need to import testable, import our project, which is the random character app, and hit Command U again and see. Right now we basically can have read this type from the test target in here. It's pretty much good. And let's do some other refactoring. So let's move this remote character service into another file. Oops, not a group. Let me delete that, and let's create a new file, remote character service, and let's move that into a new file over here. And I believe we need to import Moya as it is stated to access the Moya provider. Hit Command U again. Let's see. Now we are in the green state, and of course we basically need to move this character into another, I don't know, folder, maybe some kind of feature or model or whatever feature is good. So character should be moved in feature. So what we can do is just cut the character, paste that into this. Let's hit Command U again and see whether we are still having a green test. All right, we are good. So we are moving the dependency or the production code from the task away, and I think that's a good idea to commit. Let's commit things here. So what we can do is we can say that move code to production scope here. Let's commit, and let's see if we might, I forgot to delete this. Let's delete this one because I think this one is pretty much good to go. And let's see. All right, I think that's a good session, I guess. So let's commit things, remove unused code. And one thing what we can do is to basically match this production code foldering into this task one. So what we can do is we can wrap this task, networking task, into some kind of networking folder and move that in here. All right, so let's try to hit Command U again. Let's see. All right, we are still in the green state, and I think that's a good idea to commit. Let's see if we can commit things. Match foldering from test to production code. All right, I think that's pretty much good. And one thing that I would like to add on is actually do some kind of real fetching. And this real fetching is actually not the part of the unit test, but this one is like some kind of integration test. And what I mean is basically trying to ask the real network and get the real response feedback right? So let's try. What we can do is we can get and create another test and remote character service API test, or maybe API integration test. And let's create, and I believe maybe we can try to copy around this. Like the idea is to create the SUT, right? I don't think we need to copy, but yeah, maybe we need this one. So let's go back in here, keep open, and first of course make this fail. Hopefully you can fail. Alright, and what we can do is we can create the SUT, and that SUT, oh sorry, the SUT is already here, and we basically need to import Moya, and the type is in the test table, import random character app. And in this example, what we want to do is to create not the stopping provider but the real provider. And what we can do is we can call load here with a given ID, try await. Alright, we can try await, and we called a sync over there. And what we can do is we can do catch here. Hopefully we are not getting any error. If we got any error, then basically what we can do is expecting to get real response, got error instead. And in this one, basically we got the character, and we know that the very first character has the ID of 1, right? So we can assert, and I just remember that we have that exact assertion, so we can do is just copy and paste to assert that the character at ID 1 in terms of talking to the real networking is gonna be the same as this one. So I think it's time to refactor the name, returns correct character here. And I believe that's how we can set up. So let's hit Command U and let's see what happened. All right, we got the timeout instead, which is pretty cool. Okay, so it turns out that we are having a timeout for some reason. So let's investigate what happened actually. So let's see, maybe in our code we have some kind of fail. So I think I found the issue, guys. So the reason why it is not able to hitting the real network is because we are using actually Mac target here. And let's see why the build is failing at the moment. Let me see, I don't know, maybe the Xcode is not good at the moment, but basically the idea is it is stated that, let's see, let's wait until the index. Okay, let's run this test, and we can see that we could get some kind of clue on the console, right? It is not passing. And interestingly, if we try to run on the iPhone, it is actually gonna be passed. Let me try to demonstrate it for you. All right, so it's passing, right? And of course it is gonna be fail on this decoding because I tried to debug using that exclamation mark. So the idea is basically it is actually passing in here if we are using iPhone, but it is not able to pass in my Mac here. So let's go ahead and try to test the Mac here, and it is not passing here. And we can see in this one, in this console log, there is a bunch of things happening, and one thing that is actually interesting on me is actually this one. So basically it says that Sandbox does not allow access to the DNS Service Connect. So basically our app at the moment is in this entitlement here on this one is actually app sandbox is yes, and the sandbox does not allow to access the service. So the idea is to make the sandbox into no here. And right now if we run the test, and we can see that right now it's actually gonna be working, right? And let's go back in, let's prove that this is working, and this one is actually working, right? and let's come back, discard the message here, or the changes I mean, and let's hit Command U, and right now we can see that right now is actually working. That's pretty good. Okay, let's get back to the example. So basically, this is the API integration test. Sometimes we need to make sure that our task is basically covered up from the unit test level through the integration test level. So what we have done in the first part of the video, basically we are doing the some kind of unit test over here, right? But we basically don't know what happened if we are actually hitting the real network. Like in this case, like in this iPhone case, back then we are like in a couple of seconds or minutes before we can successfully run the integration test by hitting the real network, but we got trouble on this my Mac, right? Because we need to configure some kind of sandbox things around this entitlements file. So right now it is actually pretty much good, and let's reconfigure that again. Let's see, we are still have the green test on the Mac and in the iPhone as well. Let's see, hopefully we are still having green test. I hope it's not failing. Build failed, and let's see what happened actually. Oh, right now build succeed. Okay, so nothing to be feared of. Entitlement modified during something like that. Okay, let's clear things and let's hit Command U again. Let's confirm that we are actually good on iOS. Right, we are actually good. The task is not failing in here, and let's go ahead once again with the Mac, and of course it should be able to pass every single test. Right, it is actually passing, but somehow it is telling us that it is actually maybe the cache or something is not clean in Xcode. But the idea is the task is actually passing, right, in the Mac OS and iOS. And I believe that's how we can handle that. And let's commit things around here. So what we can do is we can create some kind of IPA end-to-end test successfully, fetch character here, and what we can do is we can group things around, because I mean, like, this one is the networking unit test, right? And I think we can create either a different target for this one, like for example remote character unit test, and another target would be like integration test. But for the sake of simplicity, I think I'm good to make those things in here at the same time, but we just need to remember that this one is integration test, right? So I think that's the idea on this video. Maybe we can start to move to like the UI logic, like the fee model stuff. Some interesting stuff is gonna be happening on that layer. So yeah, I think stay tuned and see you in the next video. Bye.